stars and unboxing fans. Welcome to another episode of Darth Tuba's Unboxing Show. I'm your host, Darth Tuba. I got a lot of bins. I got a lot of boxes. Here, let me show you what I mean. I'm talking about empty bins, guys. These are all empty. Here's the thing. I've purchased a bunch of collections over the last, 2 months. And sometimes there are some auction houses where they send me big boxes like this one. And sometimes they are in bins like this. And it seems like I ask people if they want their bins back. And they're like, no, we're good. So I have bins. Then you come in here. Here's my studio. I got boxes. Now these boxes, mostly I kind of hold on to because this is my little shipping station. I've turned this closet, I've kind of emptied it out and turned it into just a catch-all. But I got big boxes like this one that just aren't, I never will ship with this. And I have bins that, here are more boxes. Here's another box. And here's 3 more bins. This one on the bottom is empty. These 2 are only half full, and this one's mostly full. And I even got a bin over here. And a bin over here. And a little bin. And one over there. And 2 more boxes. I mean, oh my goodness. This is one of those things where I'm kind of trying to figure out how to do this. How to be a collector and a whatnot salesperson and not have my home feel like it's like an episode out of Hoarders. I don't want that. In fact, that was the whole reason why I started the channel and started selling on whatnot, because I didn't want to just have every inch of space be taken up. Yet, here we are. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about stuff like this. To me, this isn't hoarding. This is nice and organized. Okay? This is my case of mostly vintage-related stuff. I'm proud of this. I am proud of what this is. Over here, too. This one over here, not as much. Only if I could have another one of these, that would be great. But the thing is that sometimes I need a bigger space to put that stuff. So I'm just kind of staring at everything going, okay, how do I organize this? Now, the problem is that, there's also real life. There's a I call it the Harry Potter closet, where that Return of the Jedi poster is hanging and next to Charlie Chaplin painting. That's a whole storage area. That'd be great, right? Except that's where I put a lot of other stuff, like personal things and photos and videos and things of that nature. So, and I'm not talking about movies. I'm talking about home movies, that type of thing. So they're sentimentally important. I have an attic, but I don't want to overstuff the attic either. So we just have to kind of do a little organization. That's one of the reasons that we have the yard sale. The yard sale helps me clean out not just my Star Wars items that I no longer want, but also things like, just household things that we just haven't done anything with for years and years and years. So that's kind of that too. So anyway, come with me as as we kind of take a little tour of our garage and where we are in terms of the sellable stuff. I've pretty much divided everything into 2 categories. There's whatnot sale and there's yard sale or toy show sale. The whatnot sale stuff basically comes down to size. Everything that's whatnot can be smaller, okay? Like figures and, carded figures like this for when I do a modern show. This is all vintage stuff. Pay no attention to the naked Obi-Wan. That's actually, I think, a new Obi-Wan. But, like a modern one. I don't even know if I'm going to keep that. I might just throw that out there for $1 or give it put it out in the giveaway. But, there's a few items in there that I can still do and some things like that. These are medium-sized things. I could put those out to sell on whatnot. Here are all my figures. They're all organized here in this bin by figure. And then these are things that have recently come in. These are some more rare ones. I have to get all these kind of situated. We have, of course, these are my clamshells, right, with the carded figures that are complete that I'll be putting out the next sale. But I'm hoping between now and then, I have another sale coming up. At the time of this recording, I'm doing 2 sales this week. I'm doing a vintage sale on Monday and then another one on Friday. So I'm really hoping to see if I can get a few more. I have a few more accessories coming in the mail. I'm hoping to just kind of set up a few more figures just to kind of beef up my completed figure lot. So, but I need to get a little more in it. I did kind of shape this area, this little piano, and my poor Jabba. You can see I'm definitely going to be parting with that. That's, if you've been watching my whatnot, you've been seeing that I've had a bunch of figures on here, and slowly and surely I've gotten rid of all of them. The Gamorrean Guard, the two Jawas. There's a Creature 3-pack with Salacious, Bubo, and there's one guy hanging out over there, and Lando. I'm going to sell them probably on Whatnot. Not Jabba. The Jabba, I'm going to put the figure and the dais and maybe even the little side thing out for the yard sale, unless somebody makes an offer to come and pick it up because it's just too heavy to ship. So, and I'm going to donate the piano to my school, so I have a little bit more room. That'll push things up against the wall. That'll give me a little bit more walking room here, which will be helpful. So that's kind of what I'm going to do. And then what I'd like to do is take all those bins I just showed you and put them in the garage. And maybe my wife is requesting a bin or two for some stuff that she needs to store, which I'll find some smaller bins for her. In her case, I prefer to use stuff like that. In fact, I might take that clear bin down there and give that to her, and take the stuff that's in there and just put it in a colored bin, because I don't think I like being able to be able to see. I like the clear bin so you can see. There's not a lot of this one's sort of clear down here, but it's too big. Anyway, I'm rambling. Let me get through, and I have a lot of cardboard boxes, but they're in a separate car garage, which I'll show you, and you can see that I got to be careful that the stuff doesn't get damaged, particularly with all the days of cold that we've had up here in New Jersey. So let's go kind of show you what I mean. Okay, so I managed to get some boxes out of the garage, or out of the basement, right? And these are the bigger ones. Actually, you can see here, these are the ones that they shipped. This is a heritage auction, right? So I got those Legacy figures and Clone Wars figures. That one was Clone Wars, that one was Legacy. Okay, and they came in a box like that size. So it's just too big. The boxes are huge. I could use them to ship stuff, and I'll talk about that in a minute. That is just really, really, really hard. And I think it's been everybody's lament when it comes to doing anything online when it comes to shipping. Yeah, it's fine for small items. And you can see here, my garage is completely separated from my house. It is a separate car garage. Okay, there is no heat. I can set up a heater if I want, but thankfully today, it's like the first day in a long time. Look at that mountain of snow. As a kid, I would have jumped over that thing like we were playing football and catch the football, but if I tried to do that, I wouldn't get back up. Anyway, so I had to wait for a warmer day. It's not super warm today, but it's somewhat warm. So anybody who's watched my yard sale knows that this is where I hold my sale. I basically pull the cars out, park them down the street a little bit, and I set up a couple of tables here and a couple of tables where the car is, okay? So that means that, when it's not yard sale season, meaning when I don't have that one weekend in June that I do it, I have to kind of put everything in storage, right? Well, currently I have this, okay? And it's somewhat organized, okay? You can see here, like there's that large box that says Falcons. Those are my partially complete Millennium Falcon. Here's an Ewok Village. Some modern boxed vehicles, some loose 3 3/4 figures, 3 3/4 figures, some Clone Wars carded, TFA carded, okay? So I have, somewhat marked, okay? But here's the thing. Here's the deal. This is not protected. I mean, somewhat protected. It's covered. It's got a roof, but these windows are cracked and they've got seeps in them. So critters of all kinds have found their way in here, and they're much less likely to burrow into a closed bin than they are into a box, okay? And not to mention the fact that even it's nice to, when I go into a show, to bring boxes like this, but I can't even leave the boxes there if I sell everything. So these boxes are making no sense. These big moving boxes. What I am going to do, I think, is keep a handful of them, maybe break them down flat. And here's the other thing. This was a stupid move on my part. I actually bought a bunch of medium-sized boxes. Now, maybe that's not too stupid, but I bought the medium-sized boxes because there are just occasionally times when a buyer will buy just enough stuff that it won't fit in a priority mailbox, it won't fit in a flat rate box. But I don't want to use one of these and fill it with padding, so I need to use something in the middle. So I picked up a few just to have on hand, just in case. Now, of course, we have my shelves, which I keep these. I replaced these. What used to be where I stored stuff in my basement, displayed, but they're not that great. So I've just been. My original idea was to toss out. There's a whole stack of them here, stack behind this stack and then this stack. And my whole idea originally was to just get rid of all but maybe 4 shelves and use them on the table during shows and stuff. But then I realized that because they're out here in the cold, and then they get out here and then they get ultra warm and humid in the summer, I noticed when I was putting them together for the last show I did that these corners started to crack. Okay, which means that eventually they're not going to work. You know, they'll crack and make it. You know, they sort of work, and then eventually they won't. So I think I'm just going to hold on to them. Maybe try to stack them in the back somehow, get them out of the way. You know, I got one shelf that I kind of partially put up there, right? So now some people will be like looking at all this, like salivating, like, oh man, why aren't you going to put some of this stuff on your Whatnot show? Okay, well, I'll explain that. You see, the thing I'm learning about Whatnot is it's all about shipping. It's all about the weight. That's how Whatnot works. Everything is weight. You put out an item, they just calculate the weight. They don't care what you're putting out. They don't care what you call it, as long as they know an approximate weight. Now, you could lie about it, and you could say it's really, really lighter than it is, but then you're going to end up paying more for it when you weigh it. You could also lie the other way and say it's a lot heavier, but you're not making any money like that on that. That's all going to the post office. And if you do reduce shipping or cap the shipping like I do, then you're still going to end up paying more for it regardless. So there's no path forward that is good for you unless you can keep it as accurate as possible. It's better for you, the buyer, and it's better for you, the seller. It's better for I'm both a buyer and a seller. So it's better for me as both buyer seller. It's better for the seller and the buyer out there in the world. It makes everybody happy, you know. But here's where it doesn't make you happy. You can ship figures. You can ship carded figures. You could ship small vehicles. You could ship X-Wings. You could ship mini rigs. But the minute you start getting into things like Rebel transports, AT-ATs, Falcons, even Darth Vader collector cases, you are inevitably going to be paying more for shipping, because anything that's above any kind of measurement of a box that's over 12 inches, they're going to start charging you more. Now, thankfully, Whatnot does also have this little feature where, as a seller, I have like 5 per week. I have 5 adjustments in my favor. Meaning, if I have a big item that I sell and I say the weight of it is whatever, and it can fit in a priority mail flat rate box, but it can't because it's too big, and I adjust it to a bigger box, they adjust the shipping. It says that, you know, I have to now pay $10 more, but I get an allowance of $10 to cover that. I get that 5 times in a week, right? After that, I'm on my own. So it's nice to have a few of those. It's nice to have those, especially for giveaways, because I generally try to keep the giveaway weights low. I guess I could go the other way since the buyer's not paying for the giveaway regardless, but it doesn't matter. It's still, I have to cover the cost of it. So anyway, if I say it's going to be 10 pounds when it's only going to be 1 pound, then I'm paying for an extra 9 pounds of weight. Hey, you see how it gets. And again, for some that might be too much. This might be something that's just, I just don't want to do it. It's too confusing. I can't deal with this. My advice is, if it's something you really want to do, try it. But I am happy that I have things like my yard sale and things like the toy shows that I do. I've done 2 so far, and I'm probably going to try to rotate. I'm thinking about doing 4 a year, right? Like spacing things out every maybe 2 or 3 months, and then do the yard sale, like kind of in the middle there. That's kind of my plan moving forward. But because of that, all of these bigger items, I need to be able to store them better than in boxes. So let's start working on adjusting that. Okay, so this is what I'm working with. I've got 1, 2, 3 bins here that do not have lids, okay? Then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pay no attention to R2 and the Qui-Gon bank there, because they'll probably go in another bin. But I have 5 bins that do indeed have lids, okay? In addition, I got 1, 2, 3, for 5 bins with lids over here that were already in storage, plus these 2 that do not have lids. But here's what I'm working with in terms of boxes. And as you can see, we have a problem. Yes, indeed. There are way more. I mean, look, I can tell you flat out. You know, you might have a situation like this box is only half full. So that'll help in some cases, but they're not all like that, I can assure you. All right, but I'm going to do some transferring. Let's do some transference, as it were. Okay, and we'll see. And then I'll move the boxes I'm not going to keep out of the way. I do plan on keeping some of these bigger boxes, maybe three or four of them, but I'm going to break them up, flatten them out. And I'm just going to keep them in the garage to use as other kinds of thing, you know, like for a drop floor if we need to do painting or something. That works better than a cloth. I also have this shelf, another shelf like this, and that one over there. I'm thinking these are going to be the ones that I take with me onto shows because they take up a little less room in storage and they take up a little less room in the table than these. So these, as you can see, I pretty much use the back wall as a place to store this because once I get these bins in here, they'll keep those there safely, okay? And I'll use them for when I have my yard sale. Maybe even try to sell them. I don't know. We'll see. Probably not. And then, you know, maybe I'll slowly get rid. As they crack, I'll just kind of lose them a little bit. And we do have one more over there with a few items on there. I'm probably just going to leave that alone. It's funny. I'm looking at this fan, and we have a shelf over there too. I don't even know if that one is going to stay. It's kind of nice, but it blocks another shelf. You see what I'm saying? Like, we're just dealing with a lot of space here, and I'm trying to make the most sense. Plus, you'll notice I did keep stuff off the ground. When we get an excessive amount of rain, the back wall of this does get some moisture, and I just didn't want to put anything directly on the floor. Not too bad. It's not like a major flood or anything. Thankfully, we're at the top of a hill, so that's kind of why that happens. So, all right, so let me do some transference here from these things, and then I'll kind of show you what I've transferred so you can kind of see what's still left in the collection. Whew, thank God it's not freezing cold right now. Okay, so we managed to remove 6 boxes, or 5 large and 1 medium-sized box. And we managed to create 6 bins, okay? Wait, 6 bins with lids. Now, I don't know if I'm gonna leave this one out here. They are all, the stuff in there, yeah, I'll explain that in a second. These are all items that could be stored in the cold without much issue, okay? The rest of these, I'd like to have them in a bit, okay? Now, unfortunately, that leaves these kind of a question mark, okay? Because they're a little too big for whatnot, guys, all right? That's just the honest truth. The shipping on it, I mean, here's the deal. So with items like this, right? I have a choice, right? I can start it at, the price I think they're going to go for. Maybe $25, $50, $30, who knows, right? But it's been my experience on Whatnot that unless you have somebody who's desperately looking for those specific items, they are not going to bid on them. They want to bid $5, maybe $10, maybe $15 or $20, which is fine. Except the shipping, I want to cap my shipping, right? I want to cap the buyer shipping at like $9.21 or whatever it is. Sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, but that's basically the number. There is no way I'm putting any of these things in a box, even if they're lightweight, that I'm not going to be spending pretty much the money that I made from the buyer to ship it. So you understand that could be a challenge. So that's what I'm running into. Same thing with things like this, with the Millennium Falcon. We have a Falcon here. We have a 3-pack of figures. This is no way. So these are better for toy shows. These are better for yard sale, right? But because we are in a not climate-controlled space, we have to be careful that be doing it. So I may have to like go against my original intent and grab one of those boxes back in to use as a thing. We also have 2 here. I mean, this actually is a box that has the Code 3 collectible Darth Vader TIE Fighter model. That's a beautiful piece, and I actually want, it's a very high-end item, and I don't want it to, this box is too big to put in another bin, so I figured I'd just leave it in the box. This box has my Falcons in it. The Falcons are kind of run down anyway, so I'm not really concerned about that. And it's very lightweight, so I'll just place it on top. And now in going through all of this, there was another motive to why I did all this. I would like to gather up more items for my whatnot sales. And the things that are in these boxes and bins are essentially what I think would be good for that. Okay, not that box under, oh yeah, actually no, yes, that basic duty box at the bottom. Not Ewok Village, I'll leave that in here as well. But this bin, this box, that box, this bin, this box, probably even this one. Although that's a little bit, the feed hanger is a little big. Those are all items I feel are lightweight enough and small enough. I can get into the smaller boxes and I might be attractive enough. We got some vintage collection figures. We got some 12-inch action or collector series. So we got a lot of options available, right? And that way I can take these boxes, kind of put them, I'm going to mark them in the outside with some tape. I'll stack them up over there. And then from there, I'll make a new row to put other stuff in. And I don't know, like as far as this shelf is concerned, I might just end up using it with this one to I don't really have any items that'll fit in there except for that one box. So I'll probably just end up, maybe I'll even break them down. But I'll have them easy to access. I mean, I have another one somewhere. One of these bins, I forget where. I think it's one of those black bins. One of these has, I forget where. There was a bin somewhere here. Maybe it's over there. That has an actual 3 shelf thing stacked in it. So maybe I'll just do the same with all them. Maybe put them up on top of these and just save them for the yard sale. All right, now let's talk about Salacious. Okay. Good old Salacious. This was a thing that Disney Parks was doing for a while. It was essentially these little latex creatures. They had a dewback. They had Salacious Crumb. I think they had another one, but unfortunately, this was happening to them. It's just become very brittle. It's basically what happens to the real latex puppetry. Like look at this. I mean, it just breaks apart. Okay. So, I don't know what to do with it. It's kind of scary. I don't think I'm going to keep it. Perhaps I'll hold it. If somebody leaves a comment that, I'll take it. Throw it in my next box. I might just, put it out there. I mean, obviously, if I put it out to, I don't know. I will say that the rest of it is pretty good. It's just the face. It's funny how it's just foam, It's a nice little pillow, Star Wars Weekends pillow, so I'll probably keep that. But I don't think I'm going to keep that. It's just... but that's part of the reason I did it. That was part of my drive to kind of reset how I'm doing all this. Okay. So all of this will be stuff for yard sale or just toy shows. Not just this, but all the bins that you see behind them. Okay. These are all other ones. Now there might be things in these bins that up here as well. There might be things inside of all these bins that I could sell on Whatnot, which leads me to these things. Okay. I'm pretty confident that I could sell these on Whatnot, right? So I think what I'm going to end up doing is boxing these up, putting them at the front of the piles so that when it's time for me to grab a modern item, I can just quickly grab them and bring them in the house and set them up for the next sale. I don't want to store them in the house simply because I just don't think I'm going to have enough room to do it. It's a little bit of a pain, guys, because the size of the boxes, the size of everything versus loose. I do have some loose figures. I do. At the bottom of this box is some loose modern figures. When you sell off loose figures, it's really easy. But when you sell off carded items, it takes up a little more space. You got to pack the box better. I got some comic packs in there. They're bigger, so you just gotta. It is just what it is. So, thankfully Amazon is a shipment away from getting a few more boxes that you need. And the thing is that most people come in and they buy more than that, so you can combine them with bigger boxes. So, all right. So there we go. Okay, well, a little bit less cardboard, actually a lot less cardboard, because that is what we no longer have. So as I said, I'm gonna break those guys up. I'm probably gonna keep most of them, maybe just toss off 1 or 2 of them, toss out, and then slide them up in between the tables over here. Just so every so often, you know, we have a need for that, for like a flat cardboard space, for no other reason if we have to do any spray painting or something, that works. But the rest of this is good, it's sturdy, still can fit the car in here. Once we get to the warmer months, I can move on, these will be out of the way, so I can even stack some stuff back there. So I haven't really done anything back there yet. There isn't much to that. You know, we have that white shelf, that suitcase at the top there, that actually is filled with sheets, like Star Wars sheets, and I use them for tablecloths. But I figured they're pretty protected in there, right? So I bring them with me to toy shows, but I never end up using them. So I'm not 100% sure yet what I want to do. There are some things behind in that wooden shelf behind there, like those little bins there, those little mini, those are my pins and buttons and stickers and stuff. I have a bunch of them inside, but I can still access them pretty easily when I need them. So I'm just going to leave them there for right now. And as I said, you know, this is just trying to keep things organized. Now, I did say, I'm going against what I was saying. I have 2 boxes on the floor here. Not a good thing to do, especially with a melt off. I'm sure will be coming soon. But having said that, I don't plan on leaving these 2 in here for very long. Those 2 bins and those 2 boxes and the bins on top of it, those are going to be all items that are probably going to be for future modern whatnot shows. I feel better. I have a lot more modern whatnot sellable items than I originally thought. I thought I kind of used them all up. And again, tons of stuff here. I'm in good shape to continue to do sales and have plenty of stuff to put out for a Star Wars sale. I don't think my Star Wars sale will be nearly as the one I do in June. I don't think it's going to be nearly as lucrative as past years. But when you tack it on top of whatever I'm doing on whatnot, I think it all kind of works out for the best. So maybe I'll only do a 3-day sale. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, so I think, guys, that's going to do it. I do have this box that I am going to bring in because it's mostly either vintage. There's a couple of remote control R2-D2s in there. Hey, you moved on cue. Thank you, X-Wing Fighter. I believe that is a complete battle damage X-Wing Fighter. I believe it is working, and it even has a partial box. So I could put that out on whatnot, and so I have a bunch of those to put out, and that one's probably a better one. I have a few sideshow figures that I tried to sell in the yard sale last week. So I'm going to get going here, guys. I'm going to break down these boxes. You don't need to see that, okay? I hope, this is an interesting video. I know it's just I like kind of taking you guys on a tour of like what I do and how I do it, and the things that go through my mind when I have a free moment. Like, I should probably do something about that. And that's what I did. So I don't want to, I know a lot of people who actually get storage units. I'm not really at a place right now where I want to do that. Even though I understand they could, there are people. I think what I'm noticing, well, let me turn around here. I think what I'm noticing as I've been doing the sales is that my bank account is getting larger and larger and larger, which means now I'm thinking more like, okay, up until now, when I buy a lot of figures on eBay, an auction lot, or an auction lot at an auction house, I have been restricting it to $100, $200. Maybe I'll splurge at $400 or $500. That's for the loose figures or loose complete figures from vintage line, from the vintage era. Then when it comes to things like trying to get legacy figures, I might spend a little more. I might spend on about 5 or 6 lots, 30 figures in a lot each. I might look at $700, $800, $900. But I know that there are people out there that are spending $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $10,000 on massive collections, right? That they're going to break down slowly. But in order to get something of that magnitude, we need space. Now, I'm pretty lucky. I have a 2-car garage with plenty of storage around it, so I can do a little bit of that. But if I wanted to get more space, my wife and I had discussed the possibility of getting a shed. Not that shed. That shed was here when we moved here. It's ready to fall apart. I don't want to have that shed. Plus, look and go down that hill and back up that hill. And what happens right now with the snow? No, it wouldn't be good. However, maybe a shed right here might be good. But the problem is this. I know what happens to sheds, okay? They get old, they get worn out, the bugs burrow into them, okay? And so I would rather, if I'm going to spend the money, I would rather do it. And plus, I don't know how much I'm going to do this. I might do it for 5 years. I might do it for 10 years. I can't see me doing it for more than 15 or 20. I'll be 75 by the time that's done. I don't know. Maybe I will. Who knows? But I think I would rather, if I was going to do that, I would rather get a storage unit. Speaking of storage units, I understand that there are people that actually do storage unit auctions. And I've dipped my toe in that. But so far, all I found is storage units filled to capacity with a lot of junk. And maybe way deep in the corner is a tiny box. And that box says Hasbro on it. And to me, that is not, and that's how it works. You buy it unseen and hope for the best. Maybe over the course, I know somebody I saw on Whatnot just had, figure after figure after figure of modern, toys. And I'm like, where the heck did he find all this? And somebody actually asked the question. He's like, oh yeah, I won an auction in a rental unit, a storage unit. When somebody uses a storage unit and they don't pay the rent for the storage unit, you get a warning, and then after that, they just auction off the contents. And people go, and that's what they do. If you've watched Storage Wars, that's a thing. But, those are people that do massive amounts of this. They buy everything in there, and then they have a guy that will take all of the metal for a metal run. They'll have the guy that'll take all of this type of thing and take it to their antique store. The guy will buy off all of this stuff, and then they'll take one item and do it. I am not that guy. I am not the person that's going to go around and set that up. It's too much. Nothing against it. I think it's great if people do that. Okay. My brother and my father made a business out of stuff like that. Only in their case, it was more about office furniture and office stations, workstations, that kind of thing. And they kind of take them apart and then move them to another location. And it's similar, but it's also different too. And now it's become more of a moving company that my brother runs. So, so I get it. I understand it. I just don't want that to be my full thing. I love Star Wars. I want to stay in the realm where I can enjoy my hobby, make a little money to help pay for it, and maybe pay a few other bills at the same time. So that's kind of what I'm doing. So I have to stick to, until I'm flush with like $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 cash sitting in that bank account, which is not yet, I have to essentially work the little deals, make the little deals and then make a little bit of profit and then, work on making more deals. So I have a couple of bids and some auctions this weekend, and I'm filming this. I'm going to, follow them, see where they are. And if they do well, then that'll be my next modern, and I have a couple of vintage things too. So we'll see what happens, but that's where we are, guys. All right. So be sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification button. Check me out on Instagram and Bluesky, Darth Tuba's unboxing page on Facebook. Okay. And of course on Whatnot, I do the sales. I've been, kind of faithfully doing 2 sales a week, mainly because we just have had a string of days off. We've had Martin Luther King weekend, then we had a snow day, and then we had, I had to take a personal day for another reason. So I just ended up having more time during the weekend. And then we ended up taking, now we have President's Weekend. So I just keep running 2 sales. I generally run them on Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I toggle between 1 week it's vintage, 1 week it's modern. That allows me to restock. I have the modern ready. While I'm getting the modern ready in-house, I can restock by going on eBay and trying to find some lots of figures to just beef up what I have for the next vintage sale the following week. And that's kind of why I do it. Now, it's complicated matters a little bit when I do 2 shows a week because I ended up selling a lot of stuff. And then I have to, ship it out and then find more stuff to replace it. So, but I also know that we have a stretch of time. Those who know me know that I teach music. I'm an orchestra director, band director, and for a high school, and we have our musical coming up, followed by our concerts in March. So March is a busy month. I can still do them. I can still do the sales. I just can't do them necessarily on Friday nights, and I can't do necessarily uber, epic 100 item sales. I might only be able to do 50 sales or something like that. So I have to kind of, pace myself. And then we get back to the routine for a while. Then I'm on vacation. So we'll have a vacation where I won't be doing it at all. I toyed around with the idea of bringing a box of stuff down to Disney and doing the sale in the hotel room from Disney World. But I decided against that because the Wi-Fi is not always that great there. And on top of that, I'd have to ship it out from Florida, and I don't know. You're not really supposed to ship out. Fun fact: if you print a label that says it's coming from Flemington, New Jersey, you really shouldn't be shipping that label and by dropping it off in a post office in Celebration, Florida. Not that you can't do it, it's just you shouldn't do it. So I don't want to run the risk of things getting lost. So yeah, I will take the break and then we'll come back into it full force. All right, guys. Darth Tuba 77 is where you find me on Whatnot. Make sure you check it out, guys. I do shout outs early in the week to all the people who won my last sale. Then I do some unboxings on what items. Sometimes it's unboxings for what's coming up in the next show. Sometimes it's unboxing for the personal collection. And then I insert videos like this one kind of in the middle there somewhere, usually Thursday or Friday. And then Friday you can watch the Whatnot show online on YouTube on a live stream. But I always recommend going to Whatnot and setting up an account so you can watch and see the activity, see the chat, and make a bid if you want. So if you see anything you like here, I will say, guys, I'm not set up right now with everything else going on unless, I make exceptions for people that I'm friends with, local, that watch my show. Like I have a friend who said, "Oh, I noticed you had a Boba Fett. Can you hold that for me?" Yeah, well, that's fine. I can do that because I'm going to run into him at some point very quickly. And another guy that has made some purchases on Whatnot and some things I just kind of hold for him. So, but unless you're local, I don't really do holds like that. I just say go on the show. Go on the show and make the bid. I start everything at $1 to $4. It's not, yes, if somebody else wants it bad enough, you're going to have to bid with them. But for now, I'm not doing any like claims just yet. I might insert that. Maybe I'll do that like Star Wars Daddy. I'll start a membership or something, but I'm not ready for that. All right, I'm rambling. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for watching. All right, like, subscribe, as I said. And until next time, may the Force and the toys be with you.